Hello, my fellow crest-wearing companions, and welcome back to another episode of Extra Time, the U.S. Men's National Team Soccer Podcast. So I believe at this point, it doesn't really matter who you are in the United States. You've probably heard two things. The first one is that the U.S. Men's National Team roster was leaked over the weekend, and the second thing was, well, the leak was true, and all of that was there, so you may or may not have tuned into the roster reveal in New York City. That happened earlier today. So that's what the episode's about. We're going to break it down. We're going to give some thoughts. We're going to give some opinions, and we're going to try to give a more nuanced perspective than you might be hearing in other content creators' videos, episodes, whatever. You know it is. You know why you clicked on the video. Let's get into it. All right, so the U.S. Men's National Team roster for the World Cup, all 26 players, has officially been announced. And yes, it was exactly the same roster as was in the league. So first, just to kind of get it out of the way and talk about it, let's just talk about the league itself. If I'm Fox Soccer and I'm U.S. Soccer, I'm pretty heated. You spent a bunch of time and a bunch of money getting all the players to New York City, having this big event to send the whole thing off. Does it mean that the event was like less eventful and successful? I mean, not really. Like the people who are still there to celebrate, were going to show up and celebrate anyway. But anytime you're spending money on something, you don't want any aspect of it to get ruined or tainted ahead of time. And obviously, lots of these players knew before the roster was revealed because they had to get themselves to New York City. So if their family members and their friends or they themselves could keep a secret, it's not too much to ask that journalists hold on for just another few days. I've heard people say that this is great reporting and great journalism, but it's not like you're uncovering a story that was trying to be kept secret. All of this information had a designated time frame and was planned to come out. So like personally, I just don't think it's a very good look. And it's also not a good look given that it was, I believe, a UK news outlet that did it. And England was the only other team who got leaked. So I don't know. Somebody's looking for credibility and trying to get their name out there. But I don't really think it was that great of a look, but it doesn't really affect anything. So we're going to run down really, really quick through the roster. We're going to let you know who's on it if you don't, and just kind of give opinions on it of just how I feel about it. And I want to do it in a couple different ways. So we'll read the players, and then we'll talk about some different things. So first, we have three goalkeepers. Those goalkeepers are Chris Brady, Matt Freese, and Matt Turner. Right? It seems pretty likely that the battle for the goalkeeping position is going to be between Matt Freese and Matt Turner. I would believe that it's kind of like 51% Matt Freese's to lose and 49% going to Matt Turner. It's super tough. It's going to depend on current form. Obviously, if Matt Freese plays the first game, against Paraguay and we lose 3-4 something, he's probably not going to see another minute at the World Cup. I can't imagine that we get all the way to Chris Brady, but we see something in Chris Brady. You need to take a third goalie just on the fluke chances. Maybe Chris Brady is also really, really good in penalty kicks, which is another thing that we're going to chat about when we talk about the nuances. For the defenders, there are a lot of people saying that this is a defender-heavy roster. So something that we have to consider is that the United States plays very versatile and have a bunch of different tactical decisions when it comes to the defensive and midfield positions, because if you're playing a back four, it's going to look different than playing a flat three, than playing a back five, if you're playing wing backs, if they're in the midfield. So we needed players that could do a number of different things. And with the injuries that we had going into it, I do believe that some of these players obviously were selected because of that and may or may not have been selected if other players were healthy. And most of those players were affecting us were in the midfield. So Max Arfston, Serginho Dest, Alex Freeman, Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, Chris Richards, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, Joe Scally, and Austin Trusty. So we've seen all of these players playing. Miles Robinson, somebody who had a really, really massive impact when he first joined the squad, and due to like strings of injuries and underperforming, he's kind of been left off of the roster. So it's interesting to see his name coming back in. He's a player that I've really, really enjoyed because of his speed and because of his physicality and his pace. But obviously, like playing and being part of the squad and having the chemistry is a really, really big deal. And so if he still has that, great. But I could also see him kind of being like, all right, Chris Richards is like a maybe. We're already kind of weak in the center back position. Let's just take more depth in this spot, especially knowing that another central defensive midfielder like Johnny Cardosa is not going to be in, and we're also missing Tanner Tessman. So maybe you want to have another center back who could play a little bit more versatilely in there. Chris Richards, yes, torn ligaments, could have been partial tears, could have just been bruising, swelling. He's already back to the training facility. He's already playing. He's still got 3 weeks to do it. Even if he misses like a couple group stage games, we're probably getting out of the group stage, so he should still be good to go. Everybody else seems to make a lot of sense. We'll get into who we think are starters after that, but we just kind of want to get through the names first. In the midfield, Tyler Adams, Sebastian Berhalter, Weston McKennie, Gio Reyna, Christian Roldan, Malik Tillman. The only one I disagree with is Christian Roldan, but I think I have an idea why he's on the roster, and so we'll break that down. And then forward/winger/other midfield players, Brendan Aronson, Valerian Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, Haji Wright, and then Alejandro Zendejas. So to some of these people, it was a shock, I guess, to everybody. But here's the thing that we want to first start and understand. It's a 26-man roster. Depth is a factor. You have to consider so many different pieces when you're putting this roster together, right? So for most of us, when we look at the roster, we only used the first metric, which is we went talent, right? And it's talent / like, do I like this player? Because even myself included, we tend to like undervalue the talent of players that we just like don't enjoy. But I do also believe that a lot of times we don't enjoy the player because their lack of talent. So the roster that we're building has to be based on more than just talent, right? Because if it's just talent alone, then you're completely disregarding chemistry, you're disregarding matchups, experience, leadership, all of those things. So if you're imagining for a second that you're somebody who's put on this committee to assemble this roster of players, like Pochettino said, you can't simply just go, who do I think are the best players? Because let's say your country just had like the best midfielders in the whole world, but your strikers were like pretty mediocre. Are you not going to take strikers? No, you wouldn't take the 26 best players and not bring a goalie because the goalie wasn't one of your 26 most talented players. So you have to go, who are the starters that we think we're going to have? Who are their backups? And then from those 22 players, go, okay, we can take 4 more spots. So where do we think we're the thinnest, right? But that's only one argument. It might not be where are we the thinnest. It also might be where are we the most injury prone. You might be looking ahead at matchups. So we know who we have in the group stage game. So now you have your coaches together sitting in a meeting and going, okay, if we know we're playing these guys, who are their most dangerous players? Do the players that we're selecting match up against them, right? Then you're projecting down the road. If we get out of the group stage, realistically, who do we think we're going to have to play, right? If I'm able to sit here and do the math, and most of the other people that I talk to are doing similar math, and we're looking at our bracket and thinking whether basically like we're a good shot to win our group. And if we do, that means we're facing like maybe an Algeria or the runner-up of that group, which might not be somebody that you necessarily like roster spec and bring players on. But you're probably playing a Belgium again, and then you're going to be playing a Spain. So you're starting to look at the possibility of those teams and going, who can't we handle? So we know Jeremy Doku is going to light us up on the wing. Now you have somebody in that coaching room when you're thinking about the roster going, I really like such and such's matchup against Doku. I really think that we should have, like, maybe you look at Miles Robinson and go, he's a faster center back. So maybe he's an option for us to play inside on the right if we play a back 4 against Belgium, because now you have 2 guys who can keep up with Doku, and then you're not exposing Ream to having to pinch over in that matchup, right? The counter argument to that is, well, we got to get there first. So now, even if we have a player who might be really, really good against Germany, are we going to play Germany? Well, if you're not going to play Germany on your side of the bracket until the final, look at the percentage points in that player. Like, when you're trying to compile all the reasons to take somebody, it makes it really difficult for you to want to take a player that's good in a matchup you're not going to see, right? I think about these things a lot when I play in Magic the Gathering tournaments, right? If you're somebody who plays in competitive environments a lot, like even if you're like a chess player, right? So if you look at your bracket and you see that most of the players in your bracket are really, really good against the Queen's Gambit opening, right? Well, you're not going to play the Queen's Gambit because you know that your bracket is strong against it. And like, why would you play to their strengths? Whereas if they're not good, right? Maybe the Karl Khan defense is something that your opponents just haven't mastered, right? So then maybe when you're playing the black pieces, you're going to play Karl Khan. It's the same thing. You're looking at all of your matchups and going, I'm going to take like talent as maybe one of the larger pools. Then maybe health and fitness becomes a pool. Then maybe matchups becomes a pool. But then leadership certainly has to be a pool. Because for me, I don't know the players off the field, right? I want to believe that I do, but snippets in media don't tell you anything. So you have to trust the coaches on this one. I don't like Christian Roldan. I don't think he's a good player. I don't think he deserves a spot on this thing on talent alone. I'm trusting the coaching staff, despite the fact that I don't like him, that he's a leader and that's why they're bringing him. That he's not going to see a single minute of playing time, but he's there because he's got the maturity and he's going to help keep the guys grounded and keep those boys motivated and get them committed to practices and doing the things that they need to do. That's why I believe Christian Roldan is there. If you're going based on talent alone, you miss out on that. If you haven't played in an environment where there's so much on the line that it is like you cannot create an environment, a practice environment that resembles World Cup games. College teams try to do it in football for the national championship game. I know that, I believe it was Michigan, they would have games where they would invite their students, right, to come. I know professional football teams who have blasted the speakers, right? They've just intentionally had music playing the entire time, or just a roar of fans to try to simulate that environment. You can try to simulate it all you want. It is very, very difficult to near impossible. And it is definitely impossible to exactly replicate that. The more you can do to mitigate that, the better. So it helps us to have had 13 players on our roster that have been here before, right? There's another small pool. Have they been there before, right? So now you have to sit here and imagine, okay, so let's say we're vying for those final 6 spots, and you're going, okay, it's Christian Roldan versus somebody else. And it's like, okay, so what does Roldan have that they don't have, right? Or, any player. Well, this player's been there before. Okay, so that's a leg up for them. Well, this player has the leadership. Okay, so there's a little bit of boost for them. Oh, well, this player is so that's how everybody's being evaluated. And so when you look at this, you have to think there's probably a couple players on here that have situational player matchups that we might need. Are they a better one-on-one defender? Do they take guys on one-on-one? Are they going to be better on the left flank because we know the team's right backs that we're playing against are weaker? So maybe we're going to lean a little bit heavier there. Those are the things that I think about when I think about this roster. The other piece that you have to consider is you have to consider penalty kicks. Think back on the last World Cup and the World Cup before it. I think about the Croatias and I think about the Moroccos. The teams who made deep runs in the tournament and just repeatedly won elimination knockout games on penalty kicks. If you're really looking at this and you think players are neck and neck, penalty shoot statistics are coming into play. This guy has taken 12 penalty kicks in his career. He's made 9 of them. This guy's taken 0. If all other things considered, if they're about even, you're taking the guy who's taking penalty kicks because you might wind up there. And if you wind up there, that guy's got to be on the pitch. Who are the players that have ice in their veins? And they've played in these big scenarios, right? Okay, so they're about the same talent level, right? You look like a Johnny Cardosa. So let's imagine that he's still, okay, they have about the same talent level, but he's played in Champions League semifinals. Okay, he's got a massive leg up because he's played in bigger. It is not even just with talent that he's got a leg up. He has it from that ice in his veins, from that composure, from that leadership. He's been in a situation like this before. So he's more prepared to do this. And then where don't you need depth, right? So this is the other thing. The biggest criticism that's come out is our depth in the center defensive midfield position. And people are upset because, man, if we lose Tyler Adams, who's going to fill that spot? Okay. This is not going to be a popular opinion, and I don't feel good about this opinion that I have, and I'm not saying that it's right. If you know that you cannot win games if certain players on your team go down, then whether or not you have a backup for them doesn't matter. So if we need Tyler Adams to be fit the whole tournament, and he goes down and we're just shrugging our shoulders and going, we're going to have to play like we're playing a completely different tactic. We're not going to play the whole 3 in the midfield. We're just going to play 4 across the back. No more center defensive midfield. I need 2 guys who can go back and forth, right? Then you're not worried about selecting a player that you think is going to fill his spot. I mean, the U.S. has done it with strikers before. We've been like, we don't have a striker, right? It really hasn't been until recently, and you can still find people who go, we still don't have a striker, right? So even in like last World Cup, right? It's like, yeah, okay, like Pepe's kind of. What about the one before that? We didn't like scramble and go, well, we're gonna find. No, you just accept the fact that you have to win a different way. And it looks like the way that Pochettino's decided to try to do that is we're going to have a wider variety of our flex spots. So we have midfielders and defenders who can play anything from a center back role to a wing role to a wing back role to a attacking midfielder role to like they've seen a lot of different play. They have the ability to do those things, right? That's what we want. That's what he's going for. We need guys that can play more attacking. We need guys that can play more defending, right? You even think about up front. You have Valerian Balogun, who's probably going to be your starter. And the awkward part is when you look at some of our players on our team, it's like, oh, where are they from? It's like, he's from London, England. Awesome. So let's say you're winning a game, right? So you're up. Well, it looks like that final spot was between a Josh Sargent, who's in form, and a Haji Wright. Well, again, I'm comparing Josh Sargent to Ricardo Pepi and going, which one of those players would I rather have? I'd rather have Ricardo Pepi. So if I'd rather have Ricardo Pepi, that means Sargent is competing for this flex slot, and the flex slot is more of a utility player. Well, if I'm winning a game, do I want to be trying to knock the ball up to a holding striker that's Josh Sargent, or somebody big like Haji Wright? If I'm in a situation where I need to be able to win set pieces because we're down in the game and I need another player with height, am I bringing in Josh Sargent or am I bringing in Haji Wright? There's where Haji Wright is earning his ability to get a spot. Whereas if I'm down a game or tied and I need a win, it's going to be between Ricardo Pepi and Haji Wright is the knock the ball around, find a spot, score goals mentality more of what I need, in which I'm going with Pepi? Or is it I need somebody big up front who is really just going to take 1 or 2 touches and score? Pepi has done that beautifully. He's been able to take 1 or 2 touches and just knock the ball in the net, so I'm not saying he can't. But if you're just looking for play the ball to me, make a turn, hit the ball in the net, that's a Haji Wright kind of player, right? Am I going to have to play Christian Pulisic in the middle? Is Weston McKennie going to go up? Who's playing alongside him? Who's playing behind him? There's a lot of different aspects to this roster. It's not just, oh my gosh, I don't understand why we didn't take this player. This player's not as good as somebody else. It's never going to be about that. My unpopular opinion is that I think Sebastian Berhalter would have been one of the first players left off this roster had Johnny Cardoso been healthy, because I think we're taking Roldan based on his leadership. I would love to believe that Roldan would have been the first one off. But it also could have been a Miles Robinson is the first one off. Could have been Joe Scally is the first one off. So it's tough to figure out like who would have been the player. Max Arfston. Yes, he's great at attacking on the wings. He's not a great defender. He's good when it comes to playing overlapping things and trying to, generate chances, but like not great, right? So those are the players that we got going on. So this was our roster. And again, we got options. Okay? I was supposed to have this pulled up the whole time I was talking about it. It doesn't matter. You probably aren't looking at this anyway while you're doing it, but if you want to, here's the roster. We got players in weird orders. Players in very weird orders. Like, just a lot of that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, the goalies and strange. It's all strange. I do think that's something that everybody's noticed when it comes to the roster is whoever did, like, the U.S. marketing for this just, like, really botched the whole thing. You had players that didn't make the roster, like poor Diego Luna. He's in like every commercial. He's in like every ad. I mean, you're selling jerseys of players, and it like again, if you're somebody like Nike, you gotta have some kind of back end knowledge of like the players who just like at least are on the bubble. You shouldn't have been able to go to Nike and buy jerseys of players who didn't make it, right? And I don't know that was true, but it, like. It was one of the first things my mom said to me when I read the roster off is my mom was like, well, I know when I went to buy you your jerseys, the one that I'm wearing and then the other one, I know when I went to buy them that a couple of those names that you listed weren't, I was able to buy, and I don't know why I was able to buy them. And that doesn't really make any sense. If I had to look at a starting 11 from this roster right here, I would have Balogun up front. I would be playing Pulisic, and unpopular opinion, I would be playing Weah on the right. In the middle, I'm playing Adams. I'm playing McKinney, and I gotta think for a second now. Who else I'd be playing over there? I'm sure. Oh, that's tough. Who I would personally play is I would be playing Reyna. So I would be playing like Pulisic, and then I would go inside him, Reyna, McKinney, and then behind them Adams with Weah out on the right. And then I'm playing Jedi on the left. What do I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Jedi's on the left. And then inside him is Ream, Richards, and then Dest. And then I would be playing Freese in goal. I think that's my 11. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So if I had to play just a starting 11 based on these players, that's what I'd be thinking about. I think Reyna is a spot that's currently up for grabs right now. And honestly, when I look at this roster, that's the only spot that I think is. So I think when you look at this, and again, that's another thing you think about when you think about the pool is, imagine you had 7 coaches, right? Or you just sat, like just sat with your group of friends, right? And you just went, okay, who would we play at striker? Well, if everybody goes Balogun, okay, so Balogun's up front, right? So that's a non-negotiable. Well, Pulisic is out on the left. That's a non-negotiable, right? The spot where Weah is playing, I've seen different, people have been debating because are you going to play Weah deeper? Are you going to play him up in there? Like, he's got some options. Adam's spot, his spot's locked up, right? There's 3. Jedi spot's locked up. There's 4. Richard's playing in the back. There's 5. Des playing in the back. Not super locked, right? And then one of the goalies. So if you got 4 or 5 spots locked up, and then you look at the rest of it and it's like, okay, are you going to play Berhalter over McKinney? Probably not. You can play Roldan over it. People might say Tillman. So like that Reyna spot, it's either Tillman or Reyna is what people are going to argue. Okay? So then if McKinney's locked up, then you look at how many spots do you actually were not locks. So, let's give people, the benefit of the doubt, and we'll just assume that, I think Ream is probably locked up, but maybe he's not. So, Dest is, 90% probably to be playing there. Weah is pretty close. But if Balogun, Pulisic, McKinney, Adams, Jedi, and Richards are all locks, you have 4 spots that are open. So then you can start going around and saying, okay, if you weren't going to play Weah, who would you play? Right? And if 4 or 5 of the people all name the same person, I don't know who you would name in this place, but let's say everybody named, Zendejas, right? Well, then it's like, okay, let's go get Zendejas. Let's put him on it. If you weren't playing Dest at right back, who would you play? And if the only names that get mentioned are a Joe Scally or a Trusty or a Freeman, well, then those are the guys that you're grabbing, and you're not worrying about anybody else. So again, you're thinking about talent. You're thinking about leadership. You're thinking about experience. You're thinking about penalty kicks. You're thinking about depth. You're thinking about player matchup. It's not just talent alone that was going to make this squad the way that it was. I would have liked to see the media doing a little bit more nuanced of a job. I tried to do slightly more nuanced of a job in this. I don't know that I did, but I tried. Right? I just don't want us to get so locked into it was talent and talent alone, right? Oh, it was an MLS player. Oh, it was a European player. Oh, it was this or it was that. We're looking ahead to matchups and going, if we had to factor all of these things in and apply a weight to them, right? And then rank them. So if the most important thing was talent, we don't know what their next thing was. Was it player matchups? Did they go, we love the talent that we have. We actually think the next most important thing for our squad is how we match up against other teams. Is it players' ability to recover? Like, does Brendan Aronson recover faster than everybody else? Or is Brendan Aronson on the squad? Do we have more defenders because our defenders don't recover as fast? Right? Because we have big windows in this. We're going to play Saturday, Friday, I think, or Friday, Thursday, something like that. What about, I mean, that's way different than when you play friendlies. And it's like, we're going to play a friendly and then 4 days later, we're playing another friendly. Or you're like friendly 2 days later. And then they're like, oh my gosh, like the group stages for some of these things are wild. We have a lot of time. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. So I think all of those things are, all those things matter. And all those things are very important. So anyway, that's my opinion. That's my take on the roster. World Cup is starting in 3 weeks. Not this Friday, not next Friday, the Friday after that. It is coming. We need to get excited. This could be the year. Could be the year. Is this roster the roster that's going to take us there? Is it not? Love to hear your comments. Drop them below. Like and subscribe to the video if this is something that you want to see, or maybe you just want other people to see more of. Every little bit helps. I would appreciate it. We will catch you all on the next one.